There are moments in life when words are not just communication, they are revelations. They reveal the core of the person speaking them. If you've ever heard someone say any of these 6 phrases, take a moment, step back, and reconsider their place in your life. Because these words are not merely statements, they are warnings wrapped in casual conversation. What this really means is your feelings make me uncomfortable, so I'll diminish them to protect my comfort. Pay attention to this phrase. It's not sensitivity that's the problem, it's their inability to respect your emotional truth. Silence is a powerful response to anyone who invalidates how you feel. These words don't reflect gratitude, they reflect entitlement. They imply that your worth is conditional, tethered to their presence. But remember this, you bring value simply by being you. If someone uses their existence as leverage, it's time to walk away. This is an assault on your self-esteem. It's a seed of doubt planted to keep you from seeing your own light. Let me tell you, your worth is not defined by someone's ability or inability to put up with you. Leave this kind of thinking behind. This phrase is often used to shut down critical thinking or intuition. It's not overthinking if your instincts are screaming for attention. Your mind processes what your heart senses. Trust it. If someone can't engage with your concerns, they don't deserve your trust. The non-apology. It's not about them owning their part. It's about shifting the burden of their actions onto you. Accountability is the cornerstone of any meaningful relationship. Without it, there's no foundation to build on. This phrase is a refusal to evolve. It's a defense mechanism used to justify behaviors that hurt, manipulate, or stagnate. Growth is a choice, and refusing to choose it is a loud declaration that their comfort matters more than the relationship. So what do you do when you hear these words? You don't argue, you don't beg, you don't try to change them. You leave silently, firmly, and with your dignity intact. Walking away isn't weakness, it's strength. It's choosing your peace over their chaos. It's prioritizing your growth over their stagnation. And it's refusing to be fooled by words that are designed to control or diminish you. Silence is often the most powerful statement you can make. It doesn't just speak, it roars. And in that roar is your freedom. When someone says you're too sensitive, it might appear as a casual observation or even an attempt to offer constructive feedback. But beneath those words lies a deeper dismissal. It's not merely a comment about your feelings, it's a rejection of them. What this phrase truly communicates is that your emotions are inconvenient or uncomfortable for the person saying it. Instead of acknowledging your experience, they choose to diminish it, deflecting their responsibility to understand or empathize. Being told you're too sensitive often feels like being labeled as a problem. It can make you question your own emotional responses. Am I overreacting? Should I suppress how I feel to avoid being judged? These questions, while natural, point to the insidious effect of such dismissive language. It plants doubt about your worth and the validity of your emotions. Over time, this can lead to a damaging cycle where you second-guess yourself, minimizing your feelings to keep the peace, even when it comes at the cost of your own emotional well-being. But let's pause here for a moment and consider what sensitivity truly is. Sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a form of awareness, a heightened ability to feel and perceive. Sensitive people often pick up on nuances that others miss. They are attuned to changes in tone, body language, and the undercurrents of a conversation. Their depth of feeling allows them to experience life more vividly, both its joys and its pains. When someone dismisses this sensitivity, they are not merely brushing aside your feelings, they are devaluing a fundamental part of who you are. The phrase "you're too sensitive" shifts the narrative. Instead of addressing the issue at hand, it puts the spotlight on you, making your feelings the problem, rather than the situation or behavior that triggered them. This deflection can be especially damaging in close relationships where trust and mutual respect should be the foundation. Imagine expressing discomfort about something that was said or done, only to be met with this phrase. It doesn't resolve the conflict, it shuts it down. It signals that your emotions are unwelcome, and by extension, so is your voice. This kind of dismissal often reflects more about the person saying it than about you. They might lack the emotional capacity or willingness to engage with your feelings. They might be uncomfortable with vulnerability, either their own or someone else's. By labeling you as too sensitive, they shield themselves from the effort of introspection or accountability. It becomes easier for them to invalidate your emotions than to face their own discomfort. Understanding this doesn't necessarily make the sting of those words any less sharp. The real challenge lies in how you respond, not just to the person, but to yourself. When confronted with such dismissal, resist the urge to shrink or apologize for your emotions. Instead, remind yourself that your feelings are valid. They are an integral part of your humanity. Sensitivity is not something to be fixed, it's something to be embraced and protected. In moments when your sensitivity is called into question, consider the source. Is this person someone who consistently values and respects your emotions, or are they someone who habitually invalidates them? Understanding the context can help you determine whether the comment was a lapse in empathy or a pattern of disregard. In cases where the latter is true, it might be necessary to reevaluate the relationship or establish firmer boundaries to safeguard your emotional health. When honored can be a gift. It allows you to connect deeply with others, to experience compassion, and to navigate the world with an acute sense of awareness. Don't let someone's inability to handle your emotions convince you that they are a burden. You are not too sensitive. You are exactly as you are meant to be, a person capable of feeling deeply in a world that often tries to numb itself. So the next time someone tells you you're too sensitive, pause and reflect on the truth of the situation. Are you reacting strongly because the moment calls for it? Are your feelings an authentic response to being disrespected, ignored, or hurt? If the answer is yes, stand firm in your emotions. You don't need to defend your sensitivity, you need to honor it. And if someone continues to diminish your feelings, it might be time to walk away, not because you're too sensitive, but because they're too unwilling to understand. When someone says, "You're lucky to have me," it can initially sound like a compliment, as if they are affirming their value in your life. But if you pause and examine the statement more closely, it reveals something far more troubling. This phrase often stems not from a place of mutual respect or love, but from arrogance and a desire to exert control. It's a manipulative tactic designed to elevate their importance while subtly diminishing yours. At its core, this statement isn't about gratitude or appreciation, it's about creating an imbalance. It suggests that the relationship is a one-sided favor they are doing for you, rather than a mutual connection built on shared effort and respect. By framing themselves as indispensable, they position you as dependent, fostering a dynamic where you may feel obligated to tolerate their behavior, even if it's hurtful or dismissive. The message is clear: without them, you would somehow be less, and that belief is both false and harmful. The phrase "you're lucky to have me" thrives on undermining self-worth. When repeated over time, it can make you doubt your own value. You may start to believe that they are indeed doing you a favor by staying, that you're not deserving of their attention or affection, or that finding someone else who cares for you in the same way would be impossible. This erosion of confidence is deliberate. It keeps you tethered to the relationship, hesitant to assert your needs or set boundaries for fear of losing them. This type of manipulation often surfaces in subtle ways. It might come after you voice a concern or express dissatisfaction with their behavior. Instead of addressing your feelings, they respond with this phrase, shifting the focus away from their actions and onto your supposed good fortune in having them in your life. It's a deflection away to avoid accountability by making you feel like the one who's being unreasonable. They may frame their presence as a gift, but true gifts don't come with strings attached or conditions meant to control. The irony, of course, is that a healthy relationship is never about luck. It's about mutual effort, shared respect, and an understanding that both individuals bring value to the connection. No one person should hold the power to define the other's worth. When someone claims you're lucky to have them, they're often ignoring the countless ways you contribute to the relationship. They overlook your kindness, your support, your love, all the things that make you an equally vital part of the bond. This phrase is their way of skewing the narrative to serve their ego, not the truth. Responding to such a statement requires clarity and strength. It's important to recognize that your value doesn't hinge on their presence. You were whole and deserving long before they came into your life, and you will remain so regardless of their opinion. If someone genuinely values you, they won't need to remind you of your luck. Their actions and words will reflect appreciation without condescension. Mutual respect doesn't need to be asserted through arrogance. It flourishes through humility and acknowledgement of each other's worth. When confronted with this phrase, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, is this person genuinely contributing to my happiness and growth, or are they using this sentiment to keep me small and dependent? Healthy relationships empower both individuals. They don't rely on tactics that create imbalance or fear. If their words consistently make you feel lesser, it may be a sign that the relationship is built on control rather than love. You are not lucky to be tolerated, manipulated, or diminished. You are deserving of a connection that celebrates you for who you are without conditions or condescension. Anyone who tries to convince you otherwise is not a partner but an anchor, weighing you down to serve their need for dominance. Walking away from such dynamics is not a loss. It's a reclaiming of your worth and freedom. You are not lucky to have someone who doesn't honor your value. They are fortunate if you choose to stay. And never forget, that choice is always yours. When someone says no one else will put up with you, it is more than just a hurtful comment. It is a calculated tactic aimed at eroding your self-worth and keeping you tethered to a relationship that is likely imbalanced or unhealthy. On the surface, it may sound like a blunt observation, but beneath it lies a deeper intention to make you doubt your value, your desirability, and your capacity to build meaningful connections outside of this relationship. It's a manipulation tool disguised as honesty, wielded to foster dependency and control. At its core, this statement thrives on insecurity, not necessarily yours to begin with, but theirs. People who use this phrase often fear losing the control they hold over you. By making you question your ability to be accepted, loved, or valued by others, they aim to create a narrative in which they are your only option. This isolates you emotionally, leading you to feel trapped and powerless, as though their presence in your life is the only thing keeping you from loneliness. The phrase, "no one else will put up with you," is not only an attack on your self-esteem, but also an implicit dismissal of your individuality. It reduces your unique qualities, quirks, and even your struggles to something unbearable or unworthy of understanding. It suggests that your imperfections make you unlovable, that they are doing you a favor by staying, and that you should be grateful for their tolerance. This shifts the dynamic of the relationship, putting you in a position where you feel indebted to them for simply being there. Over time, this can condition you to accept less than you deserve, to settle for mistreatment, or to stay silent when your needs are unmet. The danger of this tactic lies in its ability to create a cycle of self-doubt. Once you start believing that no one else would value you, it becomes harder to imagine leaving. You may start to internalize the idea that you are flawed or unworthy, which can make the thought of seeking support, love, or companionship elsewhere feel daunting, if not impossible. This emotional isolation is precisely what the manipulator intends. It ensures that their power over you remains intact. But the truth is, no one is beyond love or understanding. Everyone has their unique challenges, their strengths, and their flaws, and these do not make anyone unworthy of connection. Relationships are meant to be spaces of mutual growth, understanding, and respect, not prisons built on fear and dependency. Someone who genuinely values you will never use your vulnerabilities as weapons or make you feel like a burden for being yourself. Instead, they will encourage your growth, celebrate your individuality, and stand by you through challenges without resorting to manipulation. It's important to recognize this tactic for what it is: a projection of the other person's insecurities. Their need to diminish your self-worth often stems from their fear of inadequacy or their inability to foster a relationship based on equality. Rather than addressing their own shortcomings, they choose to focus on your perceived flaws, amplifying them to maintain a sense of control. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it can help you see that their words are not a reflection of your value, they are a reflection of their fears. If you find yourself on the receiving end of this phrase, it's essential to challenge its validity. Reflect on the relationships in your life, friends, family, or colleagues who appreciate you for who you are. Think about the qualities you bring to the table: your kindness, your resilience, your authenticity. These are not traits to be dismissed or belittled. They are the foundation of your worth. Remind yourself that love and connection are not conditional upon perfection, and the right people in your life will embrace you fully, not put up with you. Leaving a relationship where such tactics are used can be daunting, especially if your confidence has been undermined. But walking away is not just an act of courage, it's an affirmation of your value. You deserve to be in relationships that uplift you, not ones that trap you in cycles of self-doubt. No one has the right to make you feel unworthy of love or acceptance. The journey to reclaiming your self-worth begins with recognizing the manipulation, rejecting its narrative, and embracing the truth: you are enough, just as you are, and you are deserving of relationships built on respect, kindness, and equality. When someone says you're overthinking it, it may seem like an attempt to calm you down or encourage simplicity, but often it carries a far more dismissive undertone. At its worst, this phrase is a subtle weapon used to undermine your instincts, invalidate your concerns, and plant seeds of self-doubt. It shifts the focus from the issue at hand to your thought process, implying that your perspective is flawed, exaggerated, or unwarranted. While overthinking can genuinely be a challenge for some, this statement, when used tactically, is more about silencing you than supporting you. At its core, your overthinking it is a minimization of your internal process. It discounts the time, care, and effort you've invested in analyzing a situation, instead framing your thoughtfulness as a weakness or an annoyance. It suggests that your observations are unimportant, or that you are blowing things out of proportion, regardless of whether your concerns are valid. This dismissal can be especially damaging in situations where you're grappling with uncertainty or trying to make sense of complex emotions or experiences. The phrase also has a way of undermining trust in yourself. When someone tells you that you're overthinking, it implies that your instincts are unreliable or that your ability to assess a situation is inherently flawed. Over time, hearing this can lead you to question your own judgment, even in situations where your intuition is guiding you correctly. Instead of feeling empowered to act or speak up, you might begin to second-guess yourself, fearing that you're being irrational or overly analytical. This tactic is often used to sidestep accountability. When you raise a valid concern or observation, hearing you're overthinking it redirects the attention away from the actual issue and places the blame on you for overanalyzing. It creates a convenient way for the other person to avoid addressing your concerns while simultaneously making you feel like you're the problem. This deflection can be particularly harmful in relationships as it prevents open communication and fosters an environment where your feelings and perceptions are consistently dismissed. This phrase can mask an underlying power dynamic. By telling you that you're overthinking, the other person positions themselves as the voice of reason, implying that they have a clearer or more accurate understanding of the situation. This subtly reinforces a hierarchy where their perspective is valid and yours is not. In extreme cases, this dynamic can evolve into emotional manipulation, where you are continually made to feel small, irrational, or overly emotional. Not all instances of this phrase come from a place of malice. Sometimes people genuinely believe they are helping by urging you to simplify your thoughts or look at the bigger picture. But even when well-intentioned, this statement often fails to offer meaningful support. It brushes past the nuances of your experience, leaving you feeling unheard and dismissed rather than validated and reassured. So how do you respond when someone says you're overthinking it? First, take a moment to pause and assess the situation. Are you truly caught in a loop of excessive analysis? Or are your concerns legitimate and worth exploring further? Reflect on whether the person making this comment has a pattern of dismissing your thoughts, or if this instance is an exception. Trusting yourself in this process is key. Your intuition and instincts exist for a reason, and they often provide valuable insights that deserve to be considered. If the comment feels dismissive or invalidating, it's important to assert your feelings. Calmly explain why the issue matters to you and express that you'd like your concerns to be heard without being dismissed as overthinking. For example, you might say, I understand you think I'm overthinking, but this is something that feels important to me, and I'd appreciate it if we could discuss it further. This approach redirects the focus back to the topic at hand while reinforcing your right to voice your thoughts. It's also crucial to surround yourself with people who respect and value your perspective. In healthy relationships, your instincts and concerns are not minimized, but rather acknowledged and explored. Those who genuinely care about you will work to understand your viewpoint, even if they don't entirely agree with it. They won't dismiss your thoughts as overthinking. Instead, they will seek to understand the root of your concerns and collaborate with you to address them. The phrase "you're overthinking it" often says more about the person who uses it than it does about you. It reflects their unwillingness or inability to engage with the depth of your thoughts or emotions. Your ability to think critically, analyze situations, and trust your instincts is a strength, not a flaw. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Stay confident in your ability to process the world around you, and remember that your thoughts and feelings are valid, even when others try to diminish them. "I'm sorry you feel that way" is a phrase that carries the veneer of an apology but lacks genuine accountability. On the surface, it might sound like an acknowledgement of your emotions, but a closer examination reveals its deflective nature. Rather than addressing the core issue or taking responsibility for the action that caused harm, this statement shifts the focus onto your feelings as though they are the problem. It's a subtle yet powerful way to avoid blame, invalidate your experience, and maintain control of the narrative. What makes this phrase particularly frustrating is its ambiguity. Unlike a direct apology, which acknowledges a specific wrongdoing, "I'm sorry you feel that way" centers on your emotional response rather than the action that triggered it. For instance, if you confront someone about hurtful behavior and they respond with this phrase, they are essentially sidestepping their role in the situation. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry I hurt you" or "I'm sorry for what I said," they imply that your feelings are an unfortunate reaction to something they see as neutral or justified. The statement also subtly absolves the person of responsibility. By framing the issue as your emotional response rather than their behavior, they shift the blame onto you. It creates a dynamic where you're left defending your feelings instead of discussing the original issue. This tactic can make you second-guess yourself, wondering if you're overreacting or being unreasonable. Over time, repeated exposure to this kind of deflection can erode your confidence in your own perceptions and experiences. "I'm sorry you feel that way" can feel dismissive. It lacks empathy and conveys an unwillingness to engage with your perspective. A genuine apology seeks to bridge the gap between two people by acknowledging harm, expressing remorse, and offering a path toward resolution. This phrase, however, often does the opposite. It closes the door on meaningful dialogue and signals that the person isn't interested in understanding or addressing the root of the issue. In many cases, this type of apology is used as a defense mechanism. The person saying it might be uncomfortable with vulnerability, accountability, or conflict. By offering a non-apology, they can quickly diffuse the situation without having to confront their own actions or make changes. While this may protect their ego in the short term, it damages trust and connection in the relationship over time. When you encounter this phrase, it's essential to recognize its limitations and decide how to respond. If the relationship is important to you, consider addressing the deflection directly. You might say, "I appreciate that you're acknowledging my feelings, but I'd like us to focus on the behavior that led to this situation." This approach redirects the conversation toward accountability while giving the other person an opportunity to engage more meaningfully. It's also worth evaluating the context in which this phrase is used. Is it part of a broader pattern of deflection and avoidance? Or is it a one-off instance where the person might not realize the impact of their words? In some cases, people use this phrase because they don't know how to apologize effectively or are unaware of how dismissive it sounds. Offering them a chance to clarify their intentions can sometimes lead to a more productive conversation. If the person consistently relies on "I'm sorry you feel that way" to evade accountability, it may be a sign of deeper issues in the relationship. Healthy relationships, whether personal or professional, are built on mutual respect, understanding, and a willingness to take responsibility for one's actions. If someone is unwilling to acknowledge their role in causing harm or consistently invalidates your feelings, it may be necessary to set boundaries or reconsider the relationship. A genuine apology requires more than just words. It demands accountability, empathy, and a commitment to change. "I'm sorry you feel that way" falls short of these standards, offering a hollow acknowledgement that does little to repair the harm caused. While it's natural to want validation and resolution, it's important to recognize when an apology is insincere or insufficient. Your feelings are valid, and you deserve to be in relationships where they are respected and addressed, not minimized or dismissed. When someone says, "This is just how I am," it often carries a tone of finality, as though their behavior, attitude, or habits are set in stone. At first glance, it might appear as an honest declaration of self-awareness or a defense of individuality. However, beneath this surface lies a refusal to grow or change, an attempt to mask irresponsibility as authenticity. Rather than being a statement of self-acceptance, it often becomes a convenient excuse for avoiding accountability or effort. At its core, this phrase shuts down dialogue. It implies that any attempt to address an issue or request a change is futile because the person believes their traits or actions are immutable. This can leave others feeling frustrated and helpless, as though their concerns are unworthy of consideration. It creates a barrier to meaningful communication as it dismisses the possibility of compromise or mutual understanding. In relationships, whether personal or professional, this unwillingness to engage or adapt can erode trust and connection. The notion of "this is just how I am" also contradicts the fundamental human capacity for growth. People are inherently dynamic, capable of learning, evolving, and adapting throughout their lives. To claim otherwise is not a testament to authenticity, but rather a rejection of responsibility. For instance, if someone exhibits hurtful behavior and justifies it with this phrase, they are essentially refusing to acknowledge how their actions impact others. Instead of addressing the harm or seeking improvement, they position themselves as victims of their own nature, unable or unwilling to change. Authenticity, in its true sense, is about being honest with oneself and others, but it does not absolve someone of the need to grow. Genuine authenticity recognizes the interplay between staying true to one's core values and being open to self-improvement. It embraces accountability, not as a threat to individuality, but as an opportunity to strengthen relationships and align actions with intentions. When "this is just how I am" is used as a shield, it distorts the meaning of authenticity, turning it into an excuse for stagnation. Another issue with this phrase is its dismissive tone. It often conveys a sense of resignation, as though the person has given up on trying to be better. It signals that they are unwilling to put in the effort required to address challenges, whether those challenges pertain to their behavior, communication style, or habits. This can be particularly damaging in relationships where mutual effort and adaptability are key. When one person clings to "this is just how I am," they place the burden of adjustment entirely on the other party, creating an imbalance that can lead to resentment. This phrase can be a form of deflection. By claiming their behavior is unchangeable, The person avoids confronting uncomfortable truths about themselves. It becomes easier to say this is just how I am than to face the vulnerability required for growth. Change often requires introspection, effort, and a willingness to step outside one's comfort zone, all of which can be daunting. However, avoiding this process only perpetuates the very issues that led to the conflict in the first place. If you find yourself on the receiving end of this phrase, it's important to approach the situation thoughtfully. Begin by recognizing the difference between genuine self-expression and avoidance of responsibility. Sometimes, people use this phrase because they genuinely struggle to see a path forward or lack the tools for self-improvement. In these cases, offering support or suggesting ways to address the issue together can be helpful. However, if the phrase is used repeatedly to shut down conversations or evade accountability, it may be necessary to set boundaries. For those who catch themselves saying, "This is just how I am," it's worth pausing to reflect. Ask yourself, is this truly about embracing your authentic self, or is it a way to avoid discomfort or effort? Consider the impact your words and actions have on those around you. Authenticity does not mean refusing to grow. It means being honest about where you are, while remaining open to who you can become. The statement, "This is just how I am," can be transformed into something far more empowering when approached with self-awareness and humility. Instead of using it to deflect or excuse, use it as a starting point for exploration. This is how I am right now, but I'm willing to work on it. Growth is not about abandoning who you are. It's about becoming the best version of yourself while honoring your core values. By rejecting stagnation and embracing the journey of self-improvement, you can build stronger, more meaningful connections with others and create a life aligned with your true potential. In life, the words people choose often reveal their intentions and the dynamics they bring into relationships. Phrases like, "You're too sensitive," "You're lucky to have me," "No one else will put up with you," "You're overthinking it," "I'm sorry you feel that way, and this is just how I am," are not just dismissive statements. They are subtle tools that can undermine your sense of self-worth, erode your confidence, and trap you in unhealthy dynamics. Recognizing these phrases for what they truly are, means to deflect, manipulate, or evade accountability, is crucial for your emotional well-being and personal growth. Leaving silently when confronted with such tactics is not a sign of weakness, but an act of self-respect. It is a powerful decision to protect your peace, prioritize your growth, and create space for relationships that are built on mutual respect, understanding, and genuine connection. You deserve to be in environments where your voice is valued, your feelings are honored, and your worth is never in question. Thank you for taking the time to reflect on these insights. Remember, setting boundaries and walking away when necessary are acts of courage and self-love. Stay true to yourself and never settle for anything less than the respect and kindness you deserve. Thank you. Mate.